So we'll start with the definition of inflammation. What is inflammation? Definition. What does it mean? So definition of inflammation. Okay, first inflammation, I say it is a protective response. Protective response. So I can say it is a protective response. I can use the word it is a protective vascularized response. Vascularized response. It's a protective vascularized response against an injury. I can use one more word. Actually, it's a protective. So I'll do one thing. It's a protective vascularized local response. It's a protective response. It is a vascularized response. That means, and it is protective, vascularized, and a local response. I would say, and a local response. Local response against an injury. Against any injury. So whenever you are having, so there are two ways of how do you respond. Good evening, everyone. So how do you respond to an injury? So one is we said, whenever injury happened, passively your cell had to undergo cell injury, cell adaptation also it underwent, and cell death was happening, right? That is one way of responding. Another is whenever you're having an injury, you mount an inflammation. Inflammation is your body is mounting. Yes. So your body is mounting a response to this. So this is a protective response. It is a vascularized and it's also a local response against an injury characterized by. So what is it characterized by? Characterized by leukocytic infiltrate. Leukocytic infiltrate at the site of injury. At the site of injury. So basically this is explaining everything now. So what is it basically, and also what are you seeing in it? So that is what it is explaining. So it's a protective response, it's a vascularized response, and it's also a local response, very important. So inflammation will be local against any injury or against any injury, you can say, and which is characterized by leukocytic infiltrate at the site of the injury. So you will see leukocytic infiltrate. So these leukocytic infiltrate could be of two things. So this inflammation can be divided into two types of inflammation. So we can divide the inflammation into two types. Types of inflammation. What are the different types of inflammation? There are two primary types of inflammation that we know of. Which are those two primary types of inflammation? Two types of inflammation. We divide them into an acute inflammation and a chronic inflammation. So what are the types of inflammation? Acute and chronic inflammation. What do I mean by the word acute inflammation and what do I mean by the word chronic inflammation? So two types of inflammation are there. One is an acute inflammation, another is a chronic inflammation. Acute, chronic. What is the difference between them? Acute inflammation is a short-lived inflammation. So just to understand, it's a short-lived inflammation. Acute inflammation is short-lived inflammation. So short-lived, whereas chronic inflammation is a long-standing inflammation. Chronic is a long-standing inflammation. Acute is short-lived, chronic is long-standing. Usually acute inflammation stays for few days to maybe few weeks, not more than that. Whereas chronic inflammation can stay for many months to years. For many months to years it will be there. Many months to many years it can be. So chronic inflammation can really be in, ranging from many years also. So chronic inflammation. Next. So what are the principal cells of acute inflammation? Cells of acute inflammation are neutrophils. So very, very important. Neutrophils are the cells of acute inflammation, or we also call them polymorphs. Neutrophils are also called as polymorphs. Why do we call them polymorphs? Because they are, neutrophils are the one which are having multiple loops, right? So polymorphs are, yes, good evening Akhilesh, good evening Ajay Pratap, Ajendra Pratap, yes, cells of acute. So what are the cells of chronic inflammation? So the principal cells of chronic inflammation are mononuclear cells, we call them mononuclear cells. So what do I mean by mononuclear cells? Important are your macrophages. Macrophages is the most important cell, by the way. If somebody asks me which is the cell of chronic inflammation, macrophage, that is a primary cell. Macrophage. Even lymphocytes can also be seen. Lymphocytes also can be seen. So primary cells of chronic inflammation. What are the signs of acute inflammation? So yes, signs of acute inflammation. Of course, this comparison can be asked to you. What is the difference between acute and chronic inflammation? We'll understand that also can come as a question. Signs of acute inflammation. So what do I mean by this word signs? So if you remember, the basic medicine terminologies, signs and symptoms. Symptoms means how does the patient present to you. Signs are what do you elicit. The signs of acute inflammation are so important. Four important signs are there. What are those? Rubor. Rubor is nothing but is equal to redness at the site of inflammation. So there is a redness happening at the site of inflammation, rubor. Then there is calor. Calor is increased temperature. Increase in temperature at the site of inflammation. So rubor is there. Then there is a calor. Rubor, calor. Rubor, calor. Then there is dolor. Dolor is pain occurring at the site of inflammation. Rubor, calor, dolor, tumor. So what is tumor? Tumor at the site of inflammation is nothing but swelling occurring at the site of inflammation. Rubor, calor, dolor, tumor. These were the four cardinal signs we called them. These were identified as early as just in BC, some around or just beginning of AD, 2000 years back they were identified. Then there is one more fifth function. Fifth one is the functio lisa. Yes, functio. What is functio lisa? So what do I mean by such word? Functio lisa. Functio lisa means loss of function. Loss of function is there. So these are the five cardinal signs of acute inflammation. Functio lisa. Whereas, okay, now very important is later on we will study this in acute inflammation. Okay, so just to mention here only, acute inflammation is of two phases basically. So one is in acute inflammation or any inflammation for that matter. So I'll just write few lines here. Usually inflammation, all inflammation will be having two phases of inflammation. One, so inflammation phases will be, I'll write it, early phase of inflammation and a late phase of inflammation. Early phase, late phase of inflammation. In the early phase, you primarily respond. The late phase of inflammation will be regeneration, or I will say this will be repair happening in the. So repair, remember, is always a part of inflammation. So whenever you have an inflammation, there has to be repair following the inflammation. So very important, repair. How does repair happen? Repair in case of acute inflammation is usually by regeneration. Regeneration is the word that we use. So what do I mean by regeneration? So whatever are the dead cells, those dead cells will be replaced by normal cells. So that is what is going to happen. So why is a loss of function happening in an acute inflammation? Just to say, imagine you are having a hepatitis, acute viral hepatitis, one common thing that happens. So if you have a hepatitis, what will happen to you? There will be inflammation happening in the hepatocyte. So when inflammation is happening, either it is an injury is there is an injury to the hepatocyte. It might be a toxin which might be causing, like alcohol causes this, or it might be an infectious agent like, for example, viral hepatitis can be causing your liver damage there. So whenever inflammation happens, there will be death of the cell happening. Inflammation is a non-specific response. It is a non-specific response. So will it kill only the organism offending agent? Answer is no. It can also kill the normal cells as well. Because it is killing the normal cells, there will be death of cells happening. That is the reason why someone has a hepatitis, how will he present to you? Clinically, he might be having, okay, if I examine his abdominal examination, I will see a hepatomegaly, that is swelling is happening in the liver, and also tenderness or pain will be there in the right hypochondrium. So pain is there because of inflammation. Hepatomegaly, swelling is also happening because of inflammation. There will be loss of function of hepatocytes as well. So one of the important function of hepatocyte is bilirubin conjugation. So if you lose bilirubin conjugation, then there will be jaundice happening in the patient or icterus. This is how we will manifest. So if it was an acute inflammation, very, very important, the healing or the repair happens by regeneration. So if repair happens by regeneration, so in your acute inflammation, the loss of function that is happening is, this is a transient loss of function. This is a transient loss of function, remember. Whereas in a chronic inflammation, let me just say here, in a chronic inflammation, repair is by fibrosis. So if repair is by fibrosis in chronic inflammation, so on the other side I am writing repair is by fibrosis. So that is the reason why if repair is by fibrosis, first thing, so that means if imagine a patient develops a chronic hepatitis, then what will be the finding? So there will be damage happening to the liver. If damage is happening to the liver, then there will be dead cells will be there. Because of dead cells, there will be loss of function happening. Yes, correct. So chronic inflammation will also have loss of function. Okay, before loss of function, let me write. So in chronic inflammation, if there is healing by fibrosis, repair is happening by fibrosis. That is why the organ or the tissue will be shrunken, not swollen here. So very, very important. Clinically, when we look at this, so look at the difference between acute and the chronic here then. So in case of acute inflammation, there was a swelling of the tissue, whereas in case of chronic inflammation, there is a shrinkage of the tissue. Why is the tissue shrunken in a chronic inflammation? Because of fibrosis, isn't it? Fibrosis is happening. That is why shrunken tissue is there. Tissue will be shrunken because of fibrosis. Next. Another important thing that will happen is, because the tissue is shrunken, when I physically palpate, on palpation, the tissue will appear hard. So on palpation, what is palpation? Physically feeling it, right? On palpation, there will be tissue will appear hard. So if the tissue is hard, this is what we call induration. So your liver, if there is a chronic hepatitis patient, the liver will be fibrotic. That's why it will be shrunken. It will be hard also if you can palpate. Then third one, there will also be loss of function happening here as well. Yes, there is a loss of function happening, or the functional leso is happening even in chronic inflammation. Whereas in acute inflammation, if you remember, acute inflammation, the loss of function that happened in acute inflammation was a transient loss of function. Why was acute inflammation loss of function was transient? Because healing happened by regeneration. Here healing is happening by fibrosis. That means the dead cell will not be replaced by another healthy cell. It will be replaced by collagen. So very, very important here, the loss of function that is happening here is a permanent loss of function. So the loss of function that we are talking is a permanent loss of function happening in a chronic inflammation. Permanent loss of function is happening. Permanent loss of function is there in permanent loss of function is seen in chronic inflammation. So obviously logical, from looking at this itself, I can say my acute inflammation is always better as compared to a chronic inflammation. So acute inflammation is better as compared to chronic inflammation, isn't it? Yes. So now let us start talking. So these are the differences between acute and the chronic as well. So this can come as a question. What are the differences between acute and chronic inflammation? Differences between acute and chronic inflammation, right? Yes. So I was talking about in inflammation, there will be a late phase which will be characterized by repair. So always remember, inflammation cannot happen. The end point of inflammation is always there has to be a repair happening. So repair can happen either by, we just studied, either by regeneration or by fibrosis. The early phase is the one where there is a damage happening. So this early phase is the one which is characterized by leukocytic infiltrate. So this is the one which will be characterized by leukocytic infiltrate. So why do you want leukocytes to come at the site? So that you can destroy or damage or kill the organism that is there, isn't it? So that is what is going to happen. So this is your inflammation, basic understanding of inflammation. Now next is I want to study the mechanisms of acute inflammation. So the next topic I want to discuss now, let me start talking mechanism of acute inflammation. This is a very important question. There will be a long essay question coming from this. Mechanism of acute inflammation. Mechanism of acute inflammation. A long question can come, long essay type of question can come from this mechanism of acute inflammation. So the acute inflammation, I can divide it into, so acute inflammation, I can divide it. So how does it happen basically? That is what. So acute inflammation, I told you already, mechanism of acute inflammation, I told you I can divide it into an early phase and a late phase, right? So I can divide it into early phase and late phase. Early phase of inflammation is there, late phase of inflammation is also there. In the early phase, basically what I told you, there should be a inflammation happening, that is your leukocytic infiltrate should be there. So the early phase of your inflammation is divided into three further phases. Let me say it is further divided into three parts. I can say what are those three parts I want to discuss of your early phase. The early phase of acute inflammation can be divided into vascular events of acute inflammation, vascular events of acute inflammation. Then second one is the cellular events of acute inflammation. Cellular events of acute inflammation, vascular events, cellular events, and the third one is the phagocytosis. Phagocytosis, I can use the word phagocytosis. Basically, phagocytosis means ultimately you have to kill the organism. The late phase of inflammation, already we understood, this is nothing but repair should be happening. Repair should be happening. So, this is a bird's eye view of your total inflammation. So, when they give you a long essay type of question in inflammation, they will be asking you mechanism. So, you can write it like this. Early phase is there, late phase is there, early phase has three of them. So, individually, either of these are your 5-mark question. A vascular event can be there, a cellular event can be there. Phagocytosis can come as a short 5-mark question, and a late phase, that is a repair, also can come as a 5-mark question. So each one of them. So first I want to study the vascular events of inflammation. That is the first topic. Let us discuss vascular events of acute inflammation. 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 So very, very important. So what are the different vascular events that will happen? So to understand this vascular event, let me draw one blood vessel here, and I'll, basically, so let me draw one blood vessel. Let me say this is your arteriole. So I start with the arteriole, and these are your capillaries. These are your capillaries, and these are your venules. So let us write like this. Yeah. So let me try to capillary has become too round, but you can make it. So for capillaries, let me show network of capillaries like this, right? So these are your capillary network. So this is your A, C, and V, arterioles, capillary, and the venules. So let me say, what will be the vascular events of inflammation? So whenever, imagine now this is your ACV, and this is where bacteria is there. This is what I want to discuss. So these are your bacteria. Imagine I have injected a bacteria into your skin. If I inject a bacteria into your skin, or for example, I'll give you one very common inflammation that most of you would have had is a rhinitis. How many of you have had a common cold in your life? I'm sure everybody would have had a common cold. That is nothing but rhinitis, we call it, right? Most of the times, many of the time, viral inflammation, viral infection is happening. So when viral infection happened in your nose, even COVID also is a viral infection, but anyway, we'll talk about simple common cold that is happening. So when common cold happened to you, there was a virus which went into your nose, and when it went into your nose, it infected the cells of the nose. When it infected the cells of the nose, you will mount an acute inflammation there. That means there is in the tissue or in the cell, there is your virus, and you need to mount an inflammation. When you mount an acute inflammation, let me just tell you, and you had acute inflammation, how did you present? There was your X redness was seen, rubor was there. Probably some of you would have felt pain in the nose also, at least on touching, right? Then also there would have been loss of function of the nose. Like one problem could have been there could be a blockage of the nose happening. Function is breathing, that will not be difficult breathing, or anosmia, loss of smell also would have happened, right? Now let us understand what are the vascular events of inflammation. So what are the vascular events? What happens first? The first thing in any type of injury that happens. See, basically I told you inflammation is a response to injury. Any type of injury, whenever there is an injury, injury leads to the first in the vascular now. So we are talking about first in the vascular events. Okay, I can divide it like this. Vascular events of inflammation can be three. So in the vascular events, first what is going to happen in vascular events, there will be a vasoconstriction happens. Vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction is a non-specific response. Is non-specific response to any injury. Any injury. Vasoconstriction. So very, very important. Whenever you have any injury, for that matter, doesn't matter. When you have an injury, you will always have a constriction of the vessel. This vasoconstriction is very transient in nature. So very transient in nature, lasts usually for 3 to 5 seconds. Vasoconstriction usually lasts for 3 to 5 seconds. Obviously, vasoconstriction happens in arterioles. So it happens in arterioles. So it lasts usually for 3 to 5 seconds. It happens in arteriole. It has to happen in arteriole only. Why? It has to happen in arteriole because arterioles are the one which are having muscle, right? So vasoconstriction. Actually, vasoconstriction is non-specific. It is transient. It has no role in inflammation. No role in inflammation. It doesn't have any role in inflammation. Probably it might end up is reducing loss of blood, if at all any loss of blood is there. It might end up doing that. Apart from that, there is no other role of vasoconstriction. The second important that is happening in your vascular event, we are talking about the vascular. Vascular are three of them. Second vascular event is your vasodilation. Vasodilation. The vessel has to dilate. So now very, very important is the vasodilation. Vasodilation again happens in arterioles, right? Of course, this also happens in arterioles. Vasodilation will always follow after your vasoconstriction, right? Vasodilation. Now, once vasodilation happens, this leads to, okay, what is causing vasodilation? Vasodilation is caused by multiple things like prostaglandins. Prostaglandins will cause vasodilation. One important thing that causes vasodilation are prostaglandins. Then nitric oxide can cause vasodilation. Then histamine also can cause vasodilation. Histamine. Then apart from this, bradykinin can cause vasodilation. So prostaglandins, nitric oxide, histamine, bradykinin, then histamine, bradykinin, platelet activating factor. Platelet activating factors. These also can cause vasodilation. Now, once vasodilation happens, what all will happen? So because of vasodilation, very important, vasodilation, I'll write it like this. Vasodilation, once it happens, this leads to sluggish blood flow. So the blood flow slows down, isn't it? Yes, the blood flow slows down. So because the blood flow will slow down, this is what we call it as stasis. So important, what is the word that is used here? Stasis. What is stasis? Stasis is nothing but sluggish blood flow that is happening. And why is there sluggish blood flow? Because of vasodilation. When the vessel dilates, it will lead to slowing down of the blood and stasis will happen. And this stasis, because of stasis, two important things can happen here. One, there could be redness at the site. So why will there be redness at the site? Because there is a sluggish blood flow. So stasis, and this is leading to one, redness at the site. So what is this called as? Redness at the site is nothing but your rubor of inflammation is happening. And also because there is a sluggish blood flow, there will be increased temperature. Increase in temperature at the site. This is nothing but your calor happening. So you have calor as well as rubor happening because of stasis. Right? Now, one more thing, because of stasis, one more thing happens is this leads to increase in hydrostatic pressure. Increase in hydrostatic pressure. Hydrostatic pressure can lead to loss of fluid into the tissue. There will be loss of fluid into the tissue happening because of increase in hydrostatic pressure. Now, because you lose fluid, if you remember from your basics of physiology, your hydrostatic pressure and the plasma oncotic pressure govern your water balance. So in the they keep the water inside your blood vessel. These are the two things. So loss of fluid, this will lead to further loss of fluid is happening. This will lead to hemoconcentration. Hemoconcentration. So hemoconcentration, when it happens, so what do I mean by hemoconcentration? Basically what? Your blood gets more concentrated because volume is lost, and this hemoconcentration further adds up to your stasis. Hemoconcentration further adds up to your stasis, and which will further become red and further appears increase in temperature. Calor will also happen. Rubor and calor will again happen further. Increase in what do you call sluggish blood flow, right? One more. Now because of stasis, so I will write it here, I will draw one more arrow. Because of stasis will lead to loss of laminar blood flow. Loss of laminar blood flow. We'll understand what is this loss of laminar blood flow and what does it do. We will understand that subsequently. Loss of laminar blood flow will lead to one important cellular event. We will study that. So these are the second vascular event. So two vascular event we have discussed now. What are those? One is vasoconstriction, not much of a role. Second one is vasodilation. The third one we will discuss is your another important vascular event that is happening. The third one is your increase in vascular permeability. Increased vascular permeability. Increase in vascular permeability. The blood vessel permeability should increase. Normally your blood vessel is not permeable to proteins, isn't it? Normally blood vessel is not permeable to proteins. Normally your blood vessel is not permeable to protein, but you want the permeability to be increased in case of your inflammation. Why do you want it to be increased in case of inflammation? So that at the inflammatory site, your proteins will reach. Many proteins are required at the inflammation site of inflammation. So increase in vessel permeability is required, and this is the most characteristic feature of acute inflammation. Most characteristic feature of acute inflammation. Most characteristic feature of acute inflammation is increase in vascular permeability. Increased vascular permeability is the most characteristic feature of acute inflammation. Now, once a vessel, okay, how does it happen? We will understand. Once it happens, what it will do, we'll understand. So, increased vascular permeability, the mechanisms of increased vascular permeability. Mechanisms of increased vascular permeability. So, how does vessel permeability increase? Mechanisms of increased vascular permeability. One important mechanism, okay, let me write it like this. So, in mechanisms of increased vascular permeability, one is your endothelial contraction. Endothelial contraction. So what do I mean by such word, endothelial contraction? So now let me start with this word, endothelial contraction. Let me draw one blood vessel. This is your endothelium, let us assume. So this is your endothelial cells, and endothelial cells, if you remember, are tight junctions, isn't it? So there is, because they are tight junctions, there is no what? Permeability is not, the vessels are not permeable, isn't it? So endothelium is a tight junction. Because of that, there is no permeability, no, there is permeability of the vessel is maintained, right? So what happens now in endothelial contraction is the endothelial cells will contract. Because the endothelial cells will contract, what will happen? Let us check. So this is your resting endothelium, resting endothelium, resting endothelium, and once it contracts, so when endothelial contraction happens, okay, for resting endothelium I need to draw one basement membrane as well. So let me try to depict a basement membrane, a thin one. Let me write it like this. This is your basement membrane also there, right? So this is your basement membrane. Now, so what happens is when endothelial contraction happens, this is your basement membrane. So your endothelial cells, now I am showing with the dotted line so that we can, okay, not dotted line, no need of dotted line. So because the endothelial cells have contracted, they move far away from each other. Because they are moving far away from each other, the tight junction is lost now. So now very important is, because this is your after endothelial contraction, after endothelial contraction. Okay, so endothelial contraction is required. So because now loss of tight junction, there is loss of tight junctions happening. Now this loss of tight junction leads to increased permeability. This is one mechanism. So very important is this endothelial contraction is the early and a transient response. Early and transient response. Early and a transient response. Endothelial contraction is early and transient response. Sorry. So this was your endothelial contraction. So what did endothelial contraction do? Just a minute, I'll check. Yeah. So what did endothelial contraction do? Basically, your endothelial contracted. Because of that, there is a loss of tight junction. Because of loss of tight junction, there is increase in vascular permeability happening. Second mechanism of increased vascular permeability is leukocyte mediated endothelial injury. Leukocyte mediated endothelial injury. Endothelial injury. So what do I mean by this leukocyte mediated endothelial injury? There will be activation of leukocytes. So these leukocytes which are activated, so the activated leukocytes, what can they do now? These leukocytes, if they are activated, once they are activated, they secrete interleukin 1 and TNF alpha, and this will cause endothelial injury. So they secrete interleukin 1 TNF alpha, this will cause endothelial injury. This is called as a endothelial injury that is happening. Okay, so this is by leukocyte mediated endothelial injury. Then the third one, there could also be a direct endothelial injury. Direct endothelial injury. Direct endothelial injury is done by the organism itself. So this direct endothelial injury can be the organism or the injurious agent, I can say. Injury agent can directly injure endothelium. Can directly injure the endothelium. Example, I can give you one, lipopolysaccharides. Lipopolysaccharides are called as endotoxins. Endotoxins secreted by certain types of gram-negative bacteria. These lipopolysaccharides can cause endothelial injury. Endothelial injury. So lipopolysaccharides are secreted by gram-negative organism which can cause endothelial injury, which will increase the vessel permeability. Vessel permeability. Okay. So then there is one more, the fourth mechanism, we should call it as a transcytosis. So transcytosis is, trans means across, cytosis means across the cell, right? So transcytosis means, so what happens is, basically what is the aim of your increased vessel permeability? I told you, you want the proteins from the blood vessel to reach the site. So this is your, let me say, endothelial cell. So this is your endothelial cell, and this is one of the mediator in the blood vessel. So this is your protein, sorry. This was your endothelial cell, and this is your protein which is present in the vessel. So what happens in transcytosis is, your endothelial cell will end up trying to what? Throw the membrane around the fold, and once it throws itself around as a membrane around it, around the cell, and then ultimately what? It will end up converting this into a membrane bound organelle inside the cell, and this membrane bound organelle comes onto the other side now, and now it ends up fusing its membrane like this, and your mediator comes out. The mediator comes out. Mediator comes out now, or the protein comes out. Transcytosis. This is mediated by VEGF, vascular endothelial growth factor. Vascular endothelial growth factor. So these are the three important or four important mechanisms of increase in vascular permeability. Increased vascular permeability. So what are the agents causing increased vascular permeability? Before agent, okay, let me finish with the agents causing. Agents which cause increased vascular permeability. Agents causing increased vascular. So these agents that are there, they can cause increase in vessel permeability by any of these mechanisms. So which are the agents which will cause increased vascular permeability? Interleukin 1, TNF alpha cause increased vascular permeability. How? Yes, by damaging the endothelium. We already studied that. Interleukin 1, TNF alpha will cause. Then apart from this, complements can cause increased vascular permeability. Complements, which complement causes? C3A causes increase in vascular permeability. Complement 3A causes this. Then apart from this, leukotrienes can cause. Leukotriene C4, leukotriene D4 and E4 cause increase in vascular permeability. Complement leukotriene will also again induce the endothelial damage only, leukotrienes. Then histamine can cause. Histamine, bradykinin and platelet activating factor, all will cause increased vascular permeability. So interleukin 1, TNF alpha, complement, C3A, leukotriene, C4, D4, E4, histamine and bradykinin and PAF. These will cause. Apart from this, bacterial products can cause. We discussed this. Bacterial products also can cause increased vascular permeability. Example, lipopolysaccharides. I am writing short form LPS now. What is LPS stands for here? Lipopolysaccharide. Lipopolysaccharide will cause increased vascular. So what will happen? Effect of increased vascular permeability. So effect of increased vascular permeability. What will happen? Effect of increase in vascular permeability. Effect of increased vascular permeability. One, it will lead to increased protein and fluid. Increased protein and fluid in the tissue. Fluid in the tissue. So increase in fluid and protein in the tissue, this is what we call it as exudative edema. Exudative edema is happening in the tissue. And we all know edema is going to lead to swelling of the tissue. Swelling is nothing but is your tumor of acute inflammation. If you remember, one more sign of acute inflammation was your what? Tumor. Tumor is happening because of increase in vascular permeability. Increased vascular permeability leads to tumor of acute inflammation or swelling of acute inflammation. Increase in vascular permeability. Now, one more important effect that happens because of this is because increased fluid is lost. So fluid is lost here, isn't it? Fluid is lost into the tissue. This will add up to your hemoconcentration also. So it will cause hemoconcentration. And anybody remembers what will hemoconcentration cause? We already have studied this. Hemoconcentration will cause what? Stasis. Hemoconcentration can cause stasis. Redness can happen. We just studied that, right? Next, one more. These proteins which have reached into the site. So proteins have reached the site now. Proteins have reached the tissue. These proteins, many of these proteins are going to induce chemotaxis. We will study this chemotaxis. Subsequently, we will study what is a chemotaxis there. So, increase in vessel permeability has three important roles. One, it can further induce chemotaxis. It is not, but it is a preparatory event for chemotaxis. It will induce hemoconcentration and also it will induce swelling at the site of inflammation. So, that is the edema that is happening at the site of inflammation. So, these are your vascular events of acute inflammation. So, I said vascular events of acute inflammation, they will ask, this will come as a 5-mark question for you. So what are the vascular events of acute inflammation? You need to know there are 3 of them. Which are those 3 vascular events of acute inflammation? So what all I have to write in this? What are the different vascular events I need to write? What are the mediators causing, mechanisms if there are any, and then what will be the effect of each one of them, right? So first one is vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction is happening where? In the arterioles, no effect in inflammation. So it is just a transient, early happens, right? That's it. Vasodilation happens again in arterioles, is caused by what all things? Prostaglandin, nitric oxide, histamine, bradykinin, platelet activating factor. So because of this, there will be stasis happening because of vasodilation. So what is the effect of vasodilation on inflammation? Stasis. And because of stasis, there will be rubor happening as well as what? Calor happening. That is increase in temperature happening. Then stasis also will lead to increase in hydrostatic pressure. And this will lead to loss of fluid into the tissue, which will cause hemoconcentration, again further causes stasis. So that is what is a little bit of vicious cycle happening. Apart from that, stasis will lead to loss of laminar blood flow. You can add this. This will further lead to add one here. This will lead to leukocyte margination. We will understand this later when we are going to study this in the cellular events. So you can just add here, loss of laminar blood flow is happening. This will ultimately lead to leukocyte margination. Leukocyte margination. What is leukocyte margination? We'll come to that subsequently. We'll study that. So this loss of laminar blood flow leads to leukocyte margination. Next is your increase in vascular permeability. So increase in vascular permeability. So most characteristic feature of acute inflammation, I told you most characteristic feature of acute inflammation, and that will be mechanism is endothelial contraction, then leukocyte mediated endothelial injury, direct endothelial injury, and a transcytosis. Now agents causing interleukin 1, TNF alpha, all these things you have to write. And then ultimately, what are the effects of increased vascular permeability? Will ultimately lead to increased fluid and protein in the tissue, which will lead to swelling. Hemoconcentration will happen because of fluid, loss of fluid into the tissue, and more protein in the tissue will further induce chemotaxis. We'll understand what is a chemotaxis further. Now, so these were your vascular events of acute inflammation. All of you clear the vascular events of acute inflammation? Next I want to study the cellular events of acute inflammation. So the next is your cellular events of acute inflammation. Again, this also can come as potentially a 5-mark question. Cellular events of acute inflammation. See, all these things are happening in the early phase of inflammation. The late phase is only one, repair, by the way. Cellular events of acute inflammation. So in cellular events of acute inflammation, vessel is not playing any role here. It might play, but cells are primarily working here. The cellular events of acute inflammation. Now, so to explain cellular event of acute inflammation, let me draw one vessel itself. Let me say this is your blood vessel, and let me draw on the other side also. So, and let me draw on one side, let me draw basement membrane. This is your basement membrane. This is your basement membrane happening, right? So let me try to draw the endothelium. Okay, before drawing the endothelium, okay, let me draw the endothelium. So this is the intact endothelium, by the way. This is the intact endothelium I'm drawing, right? Of course, there will be, we all know endothelial contraction, etc. will happen. Now, I want to know, so, there is a laminar blood flow happening. Let me write, these are your arterioles, these are your capillaries, and these are your venules, right? Arteriole, capillary, venule. And let me say, we all said that inflammation has to be a response to what? Injury, right? So let me say this cross mark I'm making, I'm leaving some 3-4 lines here and I'm making a cross mark here. This is the site where there is injury happening. So this is the site. Let me say I have injected bacteria there. So your bacteria have come into your body. So if this is the site where bacteria have come into the body, you want to mount an inflammation this. That means what first will be the vessel will changes happen. But however, your neutrophils have to reach the site, isn't it? Yes, that is what I want to study next. So now let me start with your leukocytes of the neutrophils. Neutrophils, if you remember from your basic physiology, you have a laminar blood flow happening. What is this laminar blood flow? Your neutrophils are moving straight in the center of the vessel. So this is your neutrophils which are moving in the center of the vessel. This is your laminar blood flow, isn't it? Yes, there is a laminar flow happening. Because of laminar flow, the neutrophils are in the center. And if you remember already, one of the vascular event has led to loss of laminar blood flow. What is that? Loss of laminar blood flow has happened. Because of loss of laminar blood flow, that was because of vasodilation. Because of loss of laminar flow, your neutrophils will start moving from center to the periphery of the vessel. So neutrophils, now look at this, have moved from the center to the periphery. Let me label it like this. So let me draw the arrow mark here so that we can understand where is it moving from where to where. So this is moving from center of the vessel to the periphery of the vessel. So neutrophils are moving from center to the periphery. So this process, let me write it as 1 here, movement from center to the periphery, I will call it as, so I am writing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, and I am going to explain the same here. The first step that we have studied in the cellular event, this is what we call leukocyte margination. Leukocyte margination. So what do I mean by this word? Leukocyte margination that is happening. Leukocyte margination. Leukocyte margination that is happening. Leukocyte margination is nothing but movement of neutrophils or leukocytes. We can say movement of leukocytes. Movement of leukocyte from center of the vessel. Center of the vessel to the margin of the vessel or periphery. Margin or periphery. That is what is called as a leukocyte margination. Simple understanding. Leukocyte margination is nothing but movement of neutrophil from center of the vessel to the periphery of the vessel. Leukocyte margination happens because of this is due to mechanism, it is due to vasodilation. Vasodilation. The mechanism of leukocyte margination is simple: vasodilation. Vasodilation is leading to your margination of the leukocytes. Margination of the leukocytes. Vasodilation. Next, further thing what happens here is once margination happened, these neutrophils have to bind to the endothelium. So this neutrophil, when it is trying to bind it to the endothelium initially, so look at this, I am showing something green color here. These green color things that are there, they are not very strongly binding. So that is why initially the neutrophil will bind, again get detached, again binds. So there is a weak binding happening. So there is a weak binding happening. So the second step that is going to happen here, this is your second step. So let us write down what is the second step happening here in the vessel. So second step happening, this is called as leukocyte rolling. Leukocyte rolling. What is leukocyte rolling? Rolling is weak attachment, weak binding of leukocytes to the endothelium. Leukocyte to the endothelium. Binding of leukocyte to the endothelium. So some people try to separate these two steps here. We are second and third. Some people write it together also. So, some people write rolling and adhesion together. I am writing them separately. Once rolling happens, the next part is strong binding of the leukocyte to the endothelium. So your leukocyte, this is your leukocyte now. So which has rolled and again, so it has rolled again. So this is your rolling has happened. And after rolling, then what? Your leukocyte has to strongly bind to the endothelium, isn't it? So this is your leukocyte. So let me say leukocyte, and I am showing with the red color here. Now this red interaction is a strong interaction that is happening. The third one that is going to happen now, this is called as adhesion. So after rolling, there will be adhesion happening. Okay, before that, rolling is mediated by whom? Rolling is mediated by, just to add one word here, rolling is mediated by selectins. Mediated by selectins. Rolling is mediated by selectins. The third one is the third process is adhesion. Adhesion is strong binding. Strong binding of leukocytes to the endothelium. Leukocyte to the endothelium. That is what is adhesion. Strong binding of leukocyte to the endothelium is adhesion. Now, so when adhesion is happening, so let me try to explain this like this. Let me say this was your endothelium. So this was your endothelium and this was your leukocyte. Okay, sorry. Now, so this was your leukocyte. Let me say. So this was your leukocyte. So what happens is there are few molecules on the leukocyte which will bind to the endothelial molecules. So let me try to look at the endothelium is showing this red one which we marked there also, and green one is on the leukocyte. So there will be on the endothelium, there are ligands of the integrin. On the leukocytes, leukocyte is containing, this is your, on the leukocyte there are integrins. Integrins and their ligands. So integrins will bind to their ligands. So very important, what is adhesion? I told adhesion is strong binding of leukocyte to the endothelium, and this is done by, mediated by integrins. Integrins will induce adhesion. And when adhesion happens, one, it will strongly bind, and integrin, when they bind to, very important, they bind to ICAM, okay, only one you remember, not all of them. When they bind to PECAM, platelet endothelial cell adhesion molecule. Platelet endothelial cell adhesion molecule. Cell adhesion molecule. So once they bind to PCAM, this will lead to activation of the neutrophil or leukocyte. Activation of leukocyte. So if your leukocyte gets activated by binding to this, right? So leukocyte has got activated. This activated leukocyte will secrete It will secrete interleukin 1 TNF alpha. Interleukin 1 TNF alpha, they will cause endothelial injury. We understood what is that? Endothelial injury. And this endothelial injury will further lead to increased vascular permeability. We know that. Increased vascular permeability. So they secrete interleukin 1 TNF alpha. Interleukin 1 TNF alpha will ultimately cause endothelial injury. That is what is leading to increase in vascular permeability, isn't it? Increase vascular permeability. One more thing, they will also secrete collagenase. And this collagenase will cause disruption, basement membrane disruption. Once there is a basement membrane disruption happening, so look at this, very important. So once leukocytes are activated, they will secrete collagenase as well. Once collagenase is secreted, there will be basement membrane disruption. Let me try to show this. So look, what has happened already is your endothelial injury has happened. Why? Because your leukocytes have got activated, they have secreted, and there is an endothelial injury, isn't it? So I have shown endothelial injury here. Endothelium has been damaged, endothelial injury. And also because of your collagenase, your basement membrane now gets disrupted. So your basement membrane is damaged here, right? So your basement membrane has been damaged now. Once the basement membrane has been damaged, what happens is your neutrophil now can squeeze through this small hole and ultimately come out of the vessel. So now look at this, there is a fourth step happening. Let me study this. So the neutrophils are moving from inside your vessel to the outside of the vessel. So there is a fourth step happening here. What is this fourth step? What do I call this? This fourth step is called as transmigration. Transmigration, or also called as diapedesis. Diapedesis. Transmigration or diapedesis. So I hope all of you can understand what is this transmigration then. Transmigration or diapedesis. Movement of neutrophil from inside the vessel to the outside the vessel. That is your fourth cellular event happening. Fourth cellular event, transmigration or diapedesis. Whatever word you want to use, I'll use only diapedesis here now. Diapedesis is mediated by PECAM. So very important, PCAM is required for diapedesis. Next, once diapedesis has happened, what should happen now is your neutrophil. So these neutrophils that are there, which are already now out of the vessel, these neutrophils have to move in the tissue, and reach the site of the inflammation. So they have to reach the site now, they have to move in the tissue and reach the site of inflammation. So this step, the fifth step that is happening here, movement from outside the vessel all the way to the site of injury. This is called as tissue migration. Or also called chemotaxis. This is the fifth step of inflammation. Chemotaxis or tissue migration. So look at this. There are 5 cellular events that are there. What are those? First one is margination. Second one is rolling. Third one is adhesion. Fourth one is transmigration or diapedesis. Fifth one is tissue migration or chemotaxis. So let us study this chemotaxis. What happens now? So what is chemotaxis? Chemo means chemical. So let me just try to split this word here. What is chemo meaning? Chemo means chemical. Taxi means movement. The word taxi means movement. Taxi means movement. So basically it is a movement which is mediated by chemicals. So these chemicals, whatever chemicals are there, these chemicals which are inducing chemotaxis, such chemicals are called as chemotaxins. So what are chemotaxins? Chemotaxins are chemicals which will induce, these are chemicals which will induce chemotaxis. So which are the different chemotaxins? Examples for chemotaxins are interleukin 1 TNF alpha is a chemotaxin. Complements are also chemotaxin. Complement C5a causes chemotaxis. Leukotriene B4 causes chemotaxis. Leukotriene B4 causes chemotaxis. Complements leukotriene B4 causes chemotaxis. Then chemokines will cause chemotaxis. Chemokines. Example for chemokines are interleukin 8 eotaxin cause chemotaxis. Apart from this, many bacterial products can cause chemotaxis. So now obviously these chemotaxins, how do they reach the site? Basically I told you most of these chemotaxins are derived from what? Blood derived chemotaxin, and they will reach the site because the vessel permeability has already increased now. So we have studied two parts of inflammation already. What are those two parts? The cellular events and the vascular events, right? The third one we have to study, what we have to study now is the phagocytosis. So the next part of mechanism of acute inflammation, if early phase, if you remember, I told you three parts of early phase. What are those? One is your vascular event, second is your cellular event, the third one is your phagocytosis. So the third we are going to study is phagocytosis. Phagocytosis. What do I mean by such word phagocytosis? Phagocytosis, by definition, this itself can come as a short, again, 5-mark question. It is a complex phenomena. Phenomenon happening in the tissue in which leukocytes recognize engulf and digest. Recognize, engulf and degrade, I can use the word degrade, the organism or the offending agent. So this is a final goal of your inflammation, by the way. So what is phagocytosis? Phagocytosis is a complex phenomenon where which is happening in the tissue, in which the leukocytes which have reached the tissue now will recognize, will engulf it and degrade the organism. That is what is happening with your phagocytosis. That is what is phagocytosis. Now, so phagocytosis, that means clearly phagocytosis has 3 steps here, which is there in the definition itself. What are those 3 steps of phagocytosis? First one is recognition should happen, second one is engulfing, and the third one is degradation or killing, whatever word you use. So 3 distinctive steps are happening in phagocytosis. The first one we will talk about recognition. The first one will be the recognition. Recognition of offending agent. When I say offending agent, basically that is the one which is causing you inflammation. Basically, it might be a bacteria, it might be any death of the cell also. Recognition of the offending agent. So how does it happen? Recognition by multiple mechanism. One, recognition will happen by many receptors like, so many receptors are present. Receptors like toll-like receptor. Toll-like receptors. Or node-like receptors. So TLR, NLR. Toll-like receptor, node-like receptor. So these are one receptors will help us. Second one, there will be receptor for IgG. and receptor for C3b. So this mechanism is called as a opsonization. So we'll study this later on in inflammation. So one more mechanism is opsonization. So ultimately what happens is, see, let me draw a leukocyte again. Let me say this is your leukocyte. So this is the leukocyte. On the surface of the leukocyte, you will be having, let me say this is a leukocyte. On the surface, you are having these receptors like what? Let me say this is your TLR. Okay. So these TLR which are there on the surface of the leukocyte, or they could be your IgG receptor, or they could be your C3b receptor, complement 3b receptor. Now what will happen is, basically they can recognize IgG, they can recognize the C3b, they can recognize the, so this TLR will be recognizing patterns. So TLR recognizes patterns by the agent. IgG will recognize IgG and C3b will recognize C3. So if you want your what do you call organism to be recognized by your leukocyte, then either the organism should be bound by IgG or complement 3b, then it can be, or there should be a pattern which is secreted by that organism which will stimulate once there is. So this is your recognition is happening, recognition of the offending agent. Once you have recognized the offending agent, second will be engulfment. Engulfment, how does it happen? Very simple. So for engulfment to happen, whatever is the receptor that has been there, so look at this, let me say TLR was there. So what happens now is, for engulfment of the organism, how do you engulf the organism? So this was your neutrophil. Now what happens is, this leukocyte that is there was a toll-like receptor, so there was a bacteria, right? So what happens is, the neutrophil now will end up modifying its membrane and bring the bacteria inside. So this was your bacteria which was stimulated by TLR also, by the way, right? So there was a TLR receptor. So you try to now internalize this. So this is your bacteria, let me label, or offending agent, I can say, better word. This is your agent. It might be a bacteria. Once it happens, then what? Engulfment further will be, now you are going to have something like this. What is this now called as? The bacteria is inside a membrane bound structure. This is what we call it as a phagosome. So you form a phagosome because of engulfment of the organism. So you have engulfed the organism, there is a formation of a phagosome now. Next, the third step that should be happening here is killing should be happening. There should be killing. So killing or degradation, whatever word we use. Degradation. Degradation for protein we use, killing for organism. So killing happens predominantly by free radical mediated killing. Free radical mediated killing. So we use free radical mediated killing for organisms. For the organisms. Sir, how do you produce free radical? What are the mechanisms or different free radical mediated killing? One, nitric oxide is there. Nitric oxide itself is a free radical and it will produce ONOO minus also further. What is ONOO? Peroxynitrate anion. So this nitric oxide is a free radical which will produce ONOO minus. Where does this come from? This is coming from leukocyte or activated leukocytes, I can say, or macrophage. Activated macrophages will release this, will have this. Even endothelium will also have this, but activated macrophages that will lead to nitric oxide. Apart from this, enzymatic production that will be happening. What are those? Of course, nitric oxide synthase is also an enzyme. Other than this, one more is your O2 gets converted into O2 minus. So who converts O2 into O2 minus? We studied this also. Your oxygen gets converted into O2 minus. By whom? O2 gets converted into O2 minus by an enzyme called NADPH oxidase. And this O2 minus gets converted into H2O2 by superoxide dismutase. Superoxide dismutase. And this H2O2 combines with chloride and the enzyme myeloperoxidase. Myeloperoxidase produces OHCl minus. So this is so all these free radicals will ultimately end up killing the bacteria. So this is how your killing of the organism is happening.